public input from anybody? Okay. May I have approval for the minutes of September 4th, school board meeting?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the September 10th school board budget work session. Do we have a motion to pass them?
So moved.
Wait a second.
Second.
Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The manifests are down by Greg. Treasurer's report.
Okay, the treasurer's report, do you have it in front of you? Okay, we got a few things to note. Adequacy aid at the very top has come in from the state. And if you go down a bit, you'll see Keno Garden aid. And that's the first receipts from the Keno. We got approved the gambling that there is out there. So we did get something with it. And then the QSCD federal reimbursement, down further, that's money from the sequester going back.
Right.
Are there any questions? Everything balances out perfectly.
How often is the Keno Garden going to be?
Well, I'm not really sure. Maybe Tom knows. Maybe, I would think it would be maybe quarterly.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not really sure. It's new, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thought is it's going to be like adequacy aid, 30%, 2020. We'll know better in November. Some of these things still have to be sorted out.
You
So
know,
you're not giving us an overall estimate for a year?
no, I was kind of surprised it was not as high as it was.
Yeah.
So must be catching on. Okay.
Hopefully. For our sake.
Yeah, I know.
Tom, was that based on how many kindergarten did last year or the year before?
Actually, it was
Good.
Last year's?
Last school years? 17, 18, or 16, 17?
16, 17, I believe.
Good, that is 61.
No,
So this year,
17.
Isn't that the big one?
you're in the
17, 18, yeah.
The big one, okay.
the end of the year stuff wasn't available.
Okay.
But if that works like adequacy aid does, then there'll be adjustments during the year. The final April payment probably reconcile over. Although not on your agenda, well, I guess you got the 25 on your agenda. For those who were not at the budget committee meeting last week, the first sheet is one of the pages that we shared with them.
Jerry, there's two.
It actually plays in with the 25. Under fiscal 19, I'm showing $122,419. The fund balance, reducing taxes. The big number there is under local tax effort on the right-hand side. We're raising $79,000 less than last year. Based on last year's assessment, it's an 11-cent reduction. This works on the assumption that what's in the DOE 25 and the MS 25s on the table there is a retention of $150,000 and returning $122,000. I think that grant to retain the 150.
We have a motion to retain $150,000.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions? With that, $150,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, thank you.
Awaiting signatures.
Yeah, I think that was done. I don't know, we're gonna, you want to check? I'll check. Okay.
anything you want to, I'll say a few things, anything you'd like to?
All right, I just want to point out that we have a committee that's put together to take a look at the needs of Lakeway Elementary School, and we pretty much put together a list of what the needs are. Now we're trying to move forward a little bit, decide what the resolutions to these needs are going to be. What we really need to do to make sure that the kids have a safe place to go to school and a great educational environment for them. So we're still moving forward, but I do expect we're coming close to making a final decision to give to the Board of Education on what we feel should happen with Lakeway Elementary.
Pretty good, very good summary. We had a good meeting the other night, went a little longer we have, 2 hours, but considering the length of the agenda, I think it's pretty good. I think as Ralph indicated, work going forward, I know here in a moment the board will consider putting out an RFP for a construction manager, which is recommended by the committee as well as by our architect. But that's a kind of the next step in the process I think we're going through. We are continuing to look at everything, including sites, all the options that we have, and we've had really some interesting, I think, people on the committee bring a different perspective. It's been a very, very good process so far. I think very inclusive, and Ralph's done a great job with meetings and running the meetings and doing everything that he's asked, and then some to help things go smoothly.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a construction manager for Lakeway project on RFP. These proposals are due by October 3rd at Water Street Architects. And it says this will be a qualifications-based selection. One of the conditions of this proposal someplace is the construction manner must have built schools before.
Right. Yeah, the only other thing I would suggest with the RFP is we back the due date up to September 28th. For the simple fact that we have a board meeting the following Monday. If we wait till November 3rd, it will be a while before the board can come back.
No, October 3rd.
Uh,
To October 3rd. That would be okay.
The next board meeting is October 1st. It'd be nice if we had that done before then. The RFP, if we had those proposals in the Friday before, then it could go to the board on the 1st of October. If we wait till the 3rd of October, it doesn't go to the board until October 15th.
So that would be September 28th,
Correct.
is what we're gonna have.
Now, how are we announcing the RFP?
Kyle will be publishing as well as pushing it out to potential construction managers.
Does Kyle think that that's enough time?
It's close, but we're under kind of a bit of a time crunch too, I think, as Ralph to the committee as we move forward. So I can confirm it with him if he's uncomfortable with only about 10, 11 days. We can certainly push it back, but my preference would be to have that done to the board at the next board meeting.
It doesn't seem very long. I mean, I'm all for it, rushing it, but I think if it's not up to us, we can sit here and say when we like it, but he knows the process.
Right.
Because do you think, Steve, that they'll come and visit Lakeway and take a look at it to prepare their bid?
Possibly.
Mm.
Possibly. He also will provide them with, I think what he indicated to me, most of the work that they'll do, though, frankly, is based on the reports that he's already done. Yeah, I'd certainly, I guess I'd like you to give me the flexibility. If we go back to the architect and said, no, no way, we need to go to at least the 3rd, then we'll certainly do that. But if he thinks we go the Friday before the 28th is sufficient, then that's what I prefer to do.
The first paragraph says that to view the existing facility, the person has to call the architect.
Yeah, no, I read that, I just
Yeah.
wasn't sure how it worked, if we anticipated that they would actually come and look at it,
Well, I
which,
think we should talk to Kyle and
well, it sounds like they work from the reports.
Yeah.
If Kyle's comfortable with that, that's fine.
Okay.
I just hate for people not to bid on it because they don't feel they have enough time, and then it shorts us.
Yep, absolutely.
Or you make a decision based on somebody that,
Yeah.
No problem.
Steve, I got the impression that he had a list of people that he intended to send it to.
Yeah.
You
So
will.
he was pretty focused with where that was gonna be going.
Yeah.
And how the funds for this, you know, if we get someone, how does that work for paying this person?
What would, to come out of general fund, we don't know exactly. He gave a range the other night,
Okay,
between 5,000 and 10,000.
okay, that's what.
So it's not a-
It's not a huge amount, yeah.
A huge
Okay.
number, but it's significant.
Yeah,
You know, again, I think that the important thing to remember here is I think we saw that in what Ralph's as well, and then what we did at the committee the other night is that this is just another way to look at what's been done, some of the calculations, some of the evaluations, and that'll, I think, will help with the process as well. So, yep, I will validate that with him. If he says it needs to go longer, then we'll leave it as it is. If he thinks that the 28th will work, then we'll leave it at 28th.
sounds good, sounds good.
yeah, that was my question too.
Did we answer your questions, Greg?
Yeah, I had a question about funding, I was just waiting, she jumped in before I did, so that was good. No, that's good. Same thought, same thought.
You have bids for Academy windows, radios, and cameras.
We don't have a bid yet for cameras. We anticipated it was going to be here today, but it hasn't come in yet. You were provided 2 quotes for the radios, which would fall, I mean, the amount granted by the infrastructure fund was $11,500, 80% of which was covered by the fund, which was $9,000. Both quotes are just over that. We could.
Both quotes? That's not what I got.
I have one quote of $12,164.20 and another quote of $12,022.64. But that would just mean removing a few radios to get it underneath the $11,500 that we originally proposed for.
Yeah, are those proposals for equal equipment as far as the quality?
Yes, they're all Motorola's, and they're all the VHF frequency.
Okay, so there's no difference in quality, it's a true comparison between the two.
We do have one more company that we're waiting on the radios, but they haven't submitted at this point.
Do you think that'll be comparable though with these other 2?
Yeah, I mean, these 2 aren't off by that much. I
Yeah.
mean, you're talking $100 for that large of a quote. I'm going to guess they're going to be pretty close to the same amount. So it's not jumping the gun, but I think in my board report it was
No,
making,
just radios, right?
those were just the radios.
And how many?
How many? 25. It would probably be closer to 23 to drop that $500.
Yeah. Okay.
Are these,
Is one company over the other that you would take?
No,
Okay.
we've purchased from both, and Alex is capable of programming them all, so that saves us the money there for the program, which isn't in the quotes anyways, the program. So
Dale, these 25 that you're buying, are they new in addition to what we already have, or are we replacing some older ones, or?
they would be both. We need additional radios. There's only currently one here at the SAU. I think we'd like to add one.
Okay.
But we also have older equipment that we need to replace.
Do you know how many about are at the level of replacing versus Like, of that 25, how many are replacing and how many are brand new or added?
I would give you a guess, it would be 10 to 15.
Okay,
I have 9 old radios still.
Okay, so Crystal has 9 over.
okay.
And just as a addition there, anything that comes to the SAU would be what we already have. The new ones will need to go to the buildings per the
Correct.
specifications in the grant. So we'll take the best of the cast offs and add it to our inventory. The priorities in the buildings as it should.
So I guess what I would ask, if I could ask, is that we approve that full amount of 11,500, and then I work with the vendors and Matt and Alex to cut it down to the 11,500, so a board approval to not exceed the 11,500 that was granted.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries not to exceed $11,500 for radios.
Thank you. And the only quote that you have for the Academy windows is the only business that toured the building and the only business that provided us a quote to replace the windows on the main floor of the Academy. Is that in your drive? Okay.
Is that in the drive? Because
I didn't drive, we did fix it, now we can find it.
But is it not with the other one?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It would have been sent a while ago. It was done in the spring.
I haven't looked at it yet,
That's
sorry.
So to just update Leslie, it's 8 windows, 4 classrooms, 2 sets of windows each. The 5 tinted windows, frosted glass in the bathroom and the hallway window, which was a total of $69,130. And we had, from the infrastructure fund, were allotted $100,000. So having the conversation with the vendor, Chris, on Friday, the sooner we act, the sooner he can order, but he's probably looking at a springtime installation. He said he wouldn't do it during the winter months.
that makes sense. Now it's so late.
And there's only one business interested. Do you know why?
I don't know if it was because the requirement was they had to come tour. There was some interest from southern part of the state via email,
Yeah.
but they never submitted a bid and they never came to tour.
Okay. And we just advertised it. How does that happen?
On the website, in the paper.
Yeah. Well,
And it was out for over 6 weeks, I believe. The bid. We waited a month and we tried to give everybody an opportunity to submit. But it's not an easy project. I mean, there's quite a few details with that work that would have to be done there in an older building like that, so that could have turned people away.
I need a motion for $69,130 if the board so accepts. For the able for that grant. Any other questions?
I know I'm not a big fan of going with one quote, I realize that's all we got, but I'm wondering if it makes sense to reopen. And maybe put an option for, is there any way that we can do, I know Alex has the ability to do stuff with the device that he makes fly, I can't remember the name of it. Jeez. Sorry. Is there any way to do like an exterior view of the building using that technology that we can then put onto an attachment with the RFP that allows companies that maybe would be willing to bid that not coming up? I don't know, I'm just looking at, is there other options to try to get at least one bid to compare it to?
I don't think the detail in the drone is enough. I think you have to physically see what the frame looks like from 1950, whatever it was.
And is it worth putting it out just to see if there's any interest in it? I mean, we put this out in spring, So it's been several months.
This is a local business too, but this is an in-town business.
Well, the thing is, we put out a spring read, we get all the rest of this information till about now. I guess I would say that it's okay to put it out for another RFP.
But if we're already looking at spring anyway,
Yeah.
Look, if
We
we-
have to order things.
you're talking, he said to me on the phone, 14 to 16 weeks to get the windows in. So you'd be adding another 4 weeks to the process. And he's expected to have it completed by July 1st or we don't get the grants. So you,
yeah,
Good points.
it's been a long process. I'm not saying we don't put it back out. I just think it's a waste of time. It was out there for 6 weeks. There was 9 different companies that I spoke to on the phone or via email regarding this, and still only one person submitted the bid. And he's done a lot of work for us. It's not like he's somebody we don't know.
Well, that's important.
Yeah, I think it is worth pointing out that after April, the state, as I learned last week, may allow for some extensions and so on, but it's not a guarantee. So I would recommend that the bid be accepted as we go forward.
I'm fine with it. I just want to.
it was just for the main floor, correct? We weren't doing the third floor, just the main floor windows.
Correct. We originally, when we put the RFP out in February, it was for all of the floors. And then we still only got the one bid back from the same company, and it exceeded the amount that we were granted. So then we resubmitted an RFP for just the main
Oh,
floor.
you did? You revised it for just one
Correct.
floor?
It went out twice.
And the first time,
Only one bidder each time.
Same bidder both
same
times.
bidder both times, correct? And Dale, was this where he talked about time frame? You figured, was it a 1 week per room?
He estimated 1 to 2 weeks per room, and he believes that he could do it. Obviously, vacation week would be
One room.
one of those weeks, but he says the noise would be minimal. I mean, Kelly and I have talked before we proceeded. We would want to obviously make sure that educationally the kids are fine.
I think if that's the case, then I'm comfortable moving forward, seeing as twice it went out to bid, same vendor both times. We've got a time frame regarding the grant that we're locked into. And if it's that long for ordering supplies and equipment, then I think we have to move forward with this vendor. I just don't know the dollar amount.
69,130.
I make a motion to accept the proposal for windows at the Academy for $69,130. Not to exceed $69,130. Anything else needs to be on that?
Right? Second, yeah, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Then
Carries. So, it looks like Kelly, you're on.
All right, our opening enrollment for September, although it changes every day, when I wrote the report, was 126 identified students. All of our positions are filled at this time. It was a relatively smooth transition back. And I'm sure the principals will talk about it as well, but the staff at the academy started implementing the Choose Love curriculum that you may have heard us talk about to help address the social and emotional learning needs across the district. They've offered to do that during their morning meeting time. They meet for the first 15 minutes every morning as a school. The Impact Academy, which is the program that Voc Rehab sponsors, and it's held at community college through Granite State Independent Living. This is the third year, and we have 4 students attending this fall cohort. It's a regional thing, so we have students from other districts and that also attend. That will begin October 9th and run through the end of the first semesters, which is about 14 weeks. And then I think I'm also on the agenda for the mental health team report. And our work has really been focused on setting up the community viewing for the resilience video, the biology of stress. We watched that back in the spring, and I think a couple board members attended that viewing as well. But we're doing it for the community, and it'll be held at the Opera House on October 16th. There'll be some light refreshments served beginning at 5:30, and then the video will be from 6 to 7, followed by a panel discussion, which will be from about 7 to 7:30. And the panel will be made up of community members in the mental health field, juvenile justice, doctor will be on the panel as well. And I don't know, I attached a flyer, I don't know if you had any questions about the video itself or this event. There'll be childcare available as well. You have to pre-register for that if you're looking for it, but Stephanie LeMay and her students will be providing childcare as well. So.
Refreshments are courtesy of our new food service provider.
Yes.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it does.
So the regional put this on last year at the Rialto Theater. Bethlehem put it on at the Colonial, and so good. That's our heard.
Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah, that's good. And I should point out that the Bureau of Student Wellness is also sending a representative to help facilitate the night as well. So.
What do they do?
The Bureau of Student Wellness, so they have grants that help districts with, dealing with the issues of mental health in schools, and they have videos that we could use for free. They send facilitators. They're the ones that provided the mental health first aid training that we had at the beginning of the school year, and that was all free through the grants that we had. Yes.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
Welcome back. Enrollment numbers are pretty stable. Above the notch, our adult ed program has a total of 20 students enrolled. 1 is for credit recovery, 4 are adults from the community, and the remaining 15 are dually enrolled, so there are high school students that participate in that program. They started their classes September 10th. Very smooth beginning. Families are happy, students are happy. The courses they're offering include building trades, economics, creative writing, English with the social studies, competency attached, work-based learning, and integrated math for this fall. Any questions about I wanted to send out a special appreciation to Photo Factory for the complimentary design for the Crusader Compass that we've been using to center our conversations at our school. The vision of a graduate is embodied in it. It includes the work from our vision and mission, the learning expectations that we did over the past several years. And this is all part of that, the NEAS efforts that we have as a school. As part of our social emotional learning efforts, Littleton Chevrolet is sponsoring a presentation of Sweethearts and Heroes. It's probably about a $5,000 presentation that's coming to our school September 26th. Littleton Chevrolet is doing that in conjunction with the North Country Chevy Dealers of New England. Northern New England Chevy Dealers, I think. We are opening this up to some of our homeschool families. September 6th, I was fortunate enough to go see Scarlett Lewis. She's the mother of Jessie Lewis, who the Choose Love curriculum, that Choose Love movement that we're using in our task time is founded upon. She's an amazing woman. One point of research that she shared with us is districts that focus on social emotional learning and have a structured curriculum see that lift in their assessment scores, and overall student achievement and success beyond high school. So it's pretty neat listening to her. Amazing. Special thanks to Mount Washington Hotel. They sent 6 backpacks filled with school supplies that we've been giving to some of our students that need the support. I left information in there about the August 23rd community collaboratives you can link to. We have removed our bells and replaced them with songs, which has changed some of the spirit in the building during the day. They're dismissed at the start of the song, and by the end of the song, they'll be in their classes ready for the next class. It's been a nice shift in the community.
Who chooses the music?
We screen it as
I mean, is it
administration.
Metallica or
It
what?
depends on who we want to play. Like,
Some of them, right?
Dale knows how to update it for us, so we send it, and the students have been giving requests, teachers have been
That's
giving
kinda
requests,
cool.
it's been kind of neat. I think Tuesday, I don't know, it's been a lot of fun, the kids are really enjoying it. Ruby Tuesday, some sort of Tuesday song coming. I'm not much, my music was never right. Under our professional practice, the MES Standard 3, I wanted to talk to you just briefly about tasks. We're really looking at those enrichments and aligning them to themes so that during the course of a month, we're ensuring that we touched on some of the physical arts, college career, enrichment opportunities. And our goal is the task team, a volunteer team that met through the summer, and already once this year, our goal is to be able to share and publish the month's worth of enrichment opportunities for our families so they can see and be more engaged in what opportunities are out there. And of course, with that programs, the interventions and supports that the students need as well. That students can select to be part of or are assigned to because they've got gaps in their competencies. Back in 2009, we had Al showed it to me, because I wasn't principal, of course. We had received a conditional accreditation from the state of New Hampshire dependent upon our use of a competency-based reporting system. And 9 years later, we're finally implementing it. New Hampshire's kind of slow in holding schools accountable, but I'm really proud to be part of the shift. It's not an easy shift for anybody, families, students, teachers, administrators, but it is something that we've got some rich conversations about. I made a note in here, I made a note in here about the work we're doing with the teachers began through the summer and is continuing. Our students have task enrichment opportunities this week and on an as-needed basis to really talk about the challenges and the successes of our approach to focusing on competencies. And in October, our parents will have the opportunity to come to Community Collaborative and also be part of that learning process for us all. Okay. Under Learning Supports, MES Standard 4, we have our student support team is really starting to hone in to that Tier 3 population. We've really spent some time fine-tuning our work with our Tier 2 students, so we're able to kind of extend and be more focused in our work on those teams. This year we've got that Jobs for American Grads, JAG. Currently 12 students are enrolled and they're planning their first community service project with the Boys and Girls Club. And this is structured as a club with officers, so they'll be looking at their officer election soon. And that's about it. Oh no, I should go through the upcoming events. Picture days this week. Homecomings this weekend, please come out. We've got the parade starting at 6 from the high school through Main Street back up to Remick Park, where Crusader Pride is doing the rally car races and the bonfire. Saturday's games will include fundraisers from our various classes. It's a pretty exciting weekend ahead of us. Senior Parent Night, September 25th at 6:30. Open house the 27th at 6:30. I don't know, I was thinking both in the same week, but it'll be good. And then October 18th, our community class.
summer
Yes.
worked on,
They worked on many different things. They worked on the development of their competencies.
okay,
They worked on Power School and how to grade, assess those.
is that all teachers or some teachers?
The vast majority, there were only, I think, 2 teachers unable to participate in any of the opportunities, but we're still doing that work with them during the school year. So I'm pretty proud of our staff for really being the learners that they have to be as we go through this transition.
It's a lot.
It is a
Remember
lot.
when Lakeway did the standards report card, and it
Yes.
was a lot. Yeah, so thank you guys, a lot of work.
I have to stand up because Jim said.
Oh, stop. I consulted with him first.
She set the standard.
It actually
First of all-
helps with the air conditioner, so thank you.
First of all, welcome back.
Thank you.
You see our goals up there, and throughout the year I'll bring back information regarding industry recognized credentials, because we want to do more of that for students. There is a cost associated with those, of course, and that's all part of the package. And we definitely want to provide more career pathway opportunities and education for our students. And you see a little further down, I'll mention that again. Staffing, we have no openings, as you know. I just want to give kudos to Dana O'Hara because she received their health certification from the state. She's always been certified to teach health science, 11th and 12th graders, or 10, 11, and 12. But she had to take a number of courses and classes to teach health science to 9th graders. It didn't make a lot of sense, but we have to have a health curriculum. It's a requirement from the state. So she's been doing that for a couple of years now and working on certification. Enrollment, you see the enrollment sheets. As always, these are just career and technical courses, 2-year programs, 11th and 12th graders right now. And you can see which schools send us which number in terms of students. You can see that some of our schools are heavily enrolled and others not so much. So we need to reach out to them a little more. They have some pretty low numbers in their schools as well. But the total district student count is 106. We have 110 Wilton students involved in the Career Tech program. It's 216, but 11 of those do go to the regional. So in-house, we have 205 Career Technical students for those 2 grades, which is a little higher than last year.
The 11 that are going to White Mountain, what program are they in?
Mostly in the bulk of the students are culinary, J. Rotzi, and 3 gentlemen are in welding.
All right, what?
Welding?
Okay,
We offer welding.
great, thanks.
And again, we're part of Region 3, and part of the agreement, we cannot duplicate programs, so they have different programs up there that we don't offer. Just industry and post-secondary connections. Otto has had a couple guests already representing different schools, but interesting, Matt Foster from the New Hampshire Automobile Dealers Association came in and worked with our students on safety, same safety protocols that they use when they go to different dealerships, so our students receive that education from him. Also, the CTC directors thought it was critical that we do more career educational planning in schools. So we're going to pilot a program to work with students around the state. I think we're going to work with 6 schools. New Hampshire Charitable Foundation ponied up the funds to do this. They gave the association $30,000 to do this. So Littleton was selected as one of the schools for this pilot. So we've been in contact with the person who's going to do the career education and setting up dates so we can get that rolling. She's going to be working with seniors primarily in 6 locations around the state. And I think hopefully New Hampshire Charitable Foundation will hopefully follow some of these seniors with scholarship money as well. So it's a good opportunity for some of our seniors. Just want to mention Rotobeck. They've been partners with us in the past, but they're reaching out to us once again. They really want to work with some of our students. So that's.
Is that the interim program? How is that program doing? Are you getting there? Sorry.
No. So presently we have 15 students enrolled, if you want, in internships. But Rotobeck is one of those.
Yeah, I thought.
So it's hard to get in the door there before, but doors are open, and definitely want to thank community industry, businesses, the hospital. They really opened the doors for our students. So very, very fortunate in that way. There will be it's the first annual work-based learning event, which is, you think of internships. It's going to be held in Concord this September 25th. It happened, I started talking about this summer, and I think I gave you a link to that. It's really taken off. Great support from the governor, from the commissioner of ed, and I'd just like to just present that one of our local businesses who've been working with our students for many, many years is going to receive an award, and that's New England Wire Technologies. Is going to receive an award for working with our students. And October is Manufacturing Month in the state. So we'll be going out and visiting some sites with our students here locally. And just program improvement, I want to mention one thing about post-secondary connections. Charles Lloyd, president of White Mountain Community College, and Jordan Camille were here today talking to students about the opportunity of Running Start. And Chuck is the president. For him to spend the day with us is great. Visiting students, usually you don't see a president do that, so it's nice. And as of last year, there are many programs if they're involved in, they're regarded as highly technology usage in those programs. The Running Start, those fees are waived. So like health science, for example, that's waived in some other programs. So that's new this year for Running Start, or last year for Running Start. It's been a $150 fee in the past, so for many of our programs that's waived. So that's a great opportunity. And I mentioned before, we're in the process of reviewing some career pathway curriculum and platforms, and they include Idea to Career. Naviance is one that is used, ASFAB and Career Cruising is one that is used in the past. So we're looking to pilot those. I've written some of those funds for these in Perkins, so we're going to see which program really appeals to students, and hopefully get that rolling in the future, so that make a much better choice when choosing career colleges and that type of thing. And I just listed here other 16 electives that we do offer. The teachers of Career Tech do offer, so a wide range of electives that you don't often see in those enrollment figures. So very, very positive enrollment across the board.
Good.
And it looks like fire science is going.
It is.
I saw there's not only 2 kids, but
There was 5 signed up.
Oh, yeah.
So that's definitely a concern to see where that's going in the future.
All right, I'm going to have Michelle, you want to talk about grant writing?
Her school is running as we speak, so that's why I wanted to let
We're
her.
registered 16 students into economics tonight, so that is up and running successfully. So for grants, I'm just going to tell you an overview of what I've submitted so far since coming on in July. So that'll give you an idea, and then I'll give you some ideas of what I'm working on. So I submitted the Lowe's Community Grant. It's a $50,000 grant. That's an interdiscipline grant, and that has already been submitted. We had to be pre-approved by by the store manager in Littleton Lowe's, and I met with him, and he liked I pitched the idea of what that grant would entail, and he's in favor for it. So that has already passed that preliminary, and we did the letter of inquiry before we were okay to write the grant, and so that went in. The adult transition grant for career pathways for $5,000 has been submitted to the state, and they're working on collaboratively putting those funds together as we speak to give us as much as we can towards that program. The Lowe's Toolkit grant was a $5,000 grant that's been submitted for a facilities renovation for life skills renovation to their classroom and bring it up to date. So I wrote that grant. And then there's a Target field trip grant that we will be submitting to hopefully have our middle school students go to the theater in Concord for a show, and that will cover the transportation costs for that. MEA has a foundation grant that I'm working with Steve and the administrators. They have a ton of money for professional development, so looking to be able to submit that in the future. That isn't due until October 15th, so we have some time to figure out how we want to use that, and I will be bringing that also up to our administrators meeting tomorrow. Dollar General is a literacy grant that the state has requested that we write for, and we'll likely get, because there's 2 in our area for Dollar General now, so that's $5,000. The Lowe's grant has a literacy grant as well for $5,000, and we're already in the system for Lowe's, so that is in the process. I also did the Rural Service Grant Technology for $5,000, and we were accepted under Spectrum to write the letter of inquiry, so I submitted that and talked to Dale about what the needs are for the technology here. The Computer for Learning U.S. General Administration Service has a technology grant that isn't due until December, and I'm working with Dale on a letter of inquiry. That is for $50,000 to upgrade technology services for the district. So that's in the works. I worked on the Title IV grant, which we received. I did that in the spring. And then I'm working with the K through 5th grade, specifically Louise Doucette, on a Toshiba grant to bring some tablets, not iPads, the others want iPads, so we're going to do it for tablets. And that's $1,000 for a classroom to use STEM in the classroom. That's due in October as well.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of work. I mean, I have to always submit any grant you get, you have to register the school district for. So I registered all of these accounts for the school district as a whole. So now I get the alerts of the grants coming in and their due dates. So then I go through and I send out emails to the administrators and say, okay, we have this many grants. What do you want? So I said to Jen, which they're not due until October, so they're on a grid for math and science teachers. So when she meets with them, they can have a say of what they want and go after for grants for in the science math department. So I have that in the works. I have ones in the elementary school. The teachers already have them, and then they help me craft what they want, and then I'll submit them. But I've already put in all of the work for submitting Littleton School District and putting them on all of your background, your NES, all of your DUN numbers. All of those have been submitted so that now we can do letter of inquiries to them and then be able to apply. And then once we've applied, they send us updates for new ones. So that's how it works. So Lowe's, you submit one, you got 20 million to choose from moving forward. And because we have a Lowe's store, we qualify. And so that's what we've got.
That's great. Wow.
That's great. It's exciting.
So
Thank you very much.
that's it. All I have. That's it. That's it.
A lot, thanks.
As a side note, above the notch is 21 students registered in it, so we're moving on that end too. So. Any questions or? I'm actually going back. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Dale.
All right. Next time I won't sit in the back if they're gonna stand up, because I didn't, or that I'm gonna print mine out, one of the two. I'll just start with technology. Had pretty good success so far with the online registration. We had, on last Wednesday, just over 40% of the students had completed 100% of the forms online. Talking to guidance today, they had even more over the weekend. I know it's a new process that's hopefully saving time for parents, and also the guidance department front office staffs in both buildings. First technology meeting will be, technology committee meeting will be Monday the 24th. We will be discussing some replacement plans for the aging Promethean boards that we've talked about for quite some time now. And hopefully at the October meeting, either as part of my report or October 1st, some sort of presentation to you with what the committee recommends. The North Country Tech Directors will be meeting in October. There's no date set yet, but the main focus of that meeting is to implement the data security plan that's required by House Bill 1612 that was signed in June. We're all kind of at a loss as to where to begin. There originally was no discussion of funding for schools. Now that it's as complex and sophisticated as it is, there has been some discussion at trying to help the schools pay for this to be done the right way, as opposed to people like me having to write all the legal jargon and somebody explain it or critique it. So hopefully there'll be funding that comes from that, but regardless, it's due by June 30th of next year. But all schools in New Hampshire, and it's basically just ways that we prevent cyber attacks, but then any software application that any staff member uses has to be listed. Any software application or app, program that students use has to be listed, who uses it, what grades use it. It's going to be time consuming, but hopefully the group of tech directors can figure it out. Facilities, the modular stairs are completed at Lakeway. They came out very nice, thanks to Lord Corrigan. He did it with zero interruption to school time. The unit ventilators the last update we had was September 30th for an arrival date. The roof scans came back for Lakeway. There was 205 square feet of the 46,000 square feet of wet areas. A majority of that 205 square feet is on the kindergarten roof, which, the best of my knowledge, is 18 years old, 2000, 2001. So the improvements that we have done to Lakeway of replacing roofs is obviously shown with the scans. The Homeland Security report came back from the Academy. Both Steve, Kelly, I reviewed it. There was a few recommendations in there. The two that stood out were installing cameras on the inside of that building, because there are, and also replacing the current camera that's on the outside of the building, so that all the entrances are covered, and also replacing the classroom doors. They're damaged. They're not fire rated at the Academy. So those were the two biggest recommendations. And again, these are recommendations. There's no obligation to do what they said. The plan is to start working on disassembling the bleachers in the gymnasium. I think we're all in agreement from the facilities committee that they're not safe, and we probably should not use them. So until we have a solution in place, I think, as I said in the report, the folding chairs will be the seat of choice for events that we host there. But I just feel responsible if something was to happen to somebody in those bleachers, and there's nothing. We've had 2 different companies look at them, and they both say that they're inadequate. At the high school, we started to put up the new room signs. The first floor is done, the main floor is done, except over by the library, but the new requirements for the ADA, they look sharp. They are more maroon than red, like some of the old signs were. Part-time custodian was filled for the academy, and the full-time custodian position was filled. He actually started tonight. The last 2 things, the sidewalk snow removal, just an update. I had a conversation after the August facilities meeting with Mr. Sargent. He was very cordial, accommodating, and said that they would do the best they could to have our sidewalks cleared before 7:15, but he will not guarantee it. We did have some opportunities last year at nobody's fault, but hopefully the additional sidewalk plow that the town received from the last vote, that would make it, hopefully make a difference to be able to cover more areas. So one of the recommendations from the maintenance team is the district looking at a UTV. We looked into, one of the suggestions from the facilities committee was a mount on the side of our current tractor. John Deere doesn't make a plow. It would make sense if it would fit. Our tractor does not fit on the sidewalk, so it cannot be used there. And then lastly, the rooftop unit at the cafeteria, I'm asking for a board vote on finally replacing that. Still only have the 1 quote from last year, so it would need to be updated. But as I said, I would recommend out of some sort of capital reserve account to fund that. But the cafeteria staff and the kids, I think they deserve better in there. It's not comfortable without any ventilation.
So the rooftop ventilators?
It's the unit that's up here.
So, are you gonna get another quote?
Yes, he's working on it. I talked to him on Thursday of last week just to get a comparison. The last quote was from Train last fall.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I've just got a couple of questions. On the infrared roof scans for Lakeway, are we going to be then putting out requests for bids on repairing that?
we're trying to find the warranty contract. Most of those Sarenville rooftops have a 20-year warranty, so since that report came back, I have not been able to find it in any past paperwork. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, it's just not in where I would suspect that it should have been filed. So that would be our first look.
Well, we know who did it, right?
I personally don't know. That was,
somebody must know who did that.
Crystal had a good suggestion earlier today when we chatted, was to contact Mr. Broder to see if he can give us any feedback.
Is that one that came down with?
Yeah.
They're out of business.
What's that?
Well, that's good to know. I guess we won't call him.
Huh?
Who was it?
Right, Maryland's.
Okay.
Oh.
But the warranty,
Some of the Somerville, it's manufactured.
it's a manufacturer's warranty. It's not a
manufacturer.
vendor's warranty.
Yeah.
They only generally would warranty it for a year
This is start.
for installation.
So I guess my question is, if for some reason we don't strike any luck with the warranty, I think it would make sense to get a quote for the repair as well as the replacement, just along, again, with everything we're doing with the Lakeway Committee, to have those 2 numbers to see the difference. For the replacement of the bleachers at Daisy Bronson, I'm just asking this because I don't know what we have, but I know we have risers at music graduation, we use it. And those are stored for a good part of the year. Any of those pieces, would they fit in that small space on each side where we could at least give, stadium style seating so people can see over the people in front of them? Instead of putting 3 flat rows, is there a possibility of putting 3 stadium? I just don't know size-wise if they would fit there. I don't know how hard it would be to get them in and out. But it might be be worth, and if it's even something we can do, but it might be worthwhile looking at just for accommodating the parents that are gonna be there watching any of the activities. We don't do a whole lot there anymore now, it's mostly rec, I think, that goes in there. But it just was a thought, if we had those those risers and they're sitting in a classroom just waiting to be used, we make use of them.
We can measure, they're 8 feet wide each section, so depending on how much space
Yeah, that's just
between the
no
poles,
idea how big they are, but,
we can measure it to see if it's feasible.
and then no, the ADA compliant room signs that we did at the high school in Daisy Bronson, are we in compliance at Lakeway for the same signage, or are we out of compliance there as well?
No, so the schools are all grandfathered, we're all grandfathered. We were missing a bunch of signs at the high school from previous walks. In order to replace them, with the current signs that we had, was more than double the cost of replacing all of them with new signs that we did. But ADA signage changed in, I think it was 2012, 2013, they have to be 6 by 8 unless you already had 6 by 6.
So Lakeway's in compliance, they're
They're
not?
fine.
Okay,
There's no change.
okay, thank you.
Jill, I have one question about the kindergarten roof and the wetness. Is it leaking in anywhere, do you know? Are there any known leaks in Lakeway?
Not in the kindergarten.
Not in
Never,
that
it's
area.
never known, yeah.
Okay.
Knock on wood, not as of right now.
I was going to compare the current scheme to the old scheme, because I have that over the
Yeah, I have a lot of information on that too, but, yep.
So regarding the cafeteria rooftop unit, you know, is there a certain dollar amount that you would authorize for me to move forward? Or do we, I mean, ideally you want that installed before the winter.
For what, yeah?
The winter, before the winter.
Well, do you, a year or?
Well, I mean, we're using the same price that we used when we replaced the gym. It's the same unit that Train gave us for the quote there. I mean, ideally, if the other quote comes in cheaper, but I mean, it's,
How are we going to have a facilities committee meeting to first of October, so
it's October 5th.
what?
October 5th, I think, whenever the first Friday is.
Did you talk about it at the last one? Did that?
We've talked
What
about,
was the-
we've talked about this in the past.
Okay, so what was the,
So I think we were just waiting, I think we had the quote of 37, was that from Train, but was that the last time we did it? Is that what that quote is?
No, he actually had given us a quote when they did their,
Was that in the
They
spring?
August of 2017,
So it's a year.
a little more than a year.
So we just needed to come, how easy is it to get an updated quote?
Probably just send an email. He's got the model information. And the last time we did it, he honored the previous quotes. So he might do it again, but I don't want to speak for that.
And what was the thought as far as funding for that? Was that out of capital reserves?
Depends on how much we have left.
Okay.
Was it 375?
so is that equipment or maintenance? Maintenance?
Well, I think that's
Equipment.
But
With the whole new unit.
Is that
You
okay?
mentioned that.
Yeah. So it's in,
Well, it sounds like it's not.
It was a priority, that's for
Exactly,
sure.
yeah.
So I don't see any sense of waiting for another facility meeting, because we
No, they
already
don't.
talked about it, so I think.
So we're looking at 35,
What we need to
38,
do is go ahead with it. I think.
$45,000 to come out of that account.
Not to exceed, and hopefully they'll honor the quote,
So
and we might do less than that.
So it's pretty much what the voters put in, right? What did you use it, 45 again?
What?
Use it for-
Because the infrastructure money,
Yeah,
that we are 20% is coming out of those reserve accounts.
I was thinking that we put in, at the end of the day, you put in 50, and voters voted in 50,000 into equipment.
Balance, well, I should have seen the front balance, but anyway, I'm looking at $102,000 as at the end of July, and we're taking about $45,000 out there. My math is correct. Including this. So we'll probably be down to 58,000, something like that.
Steve, is this something you recommend?
Out of the capital reserve.
If you guys have discussed it.
Yeah, we have. So I'll make a motion to utilize funds out of the capital reserve equipment account not to exceed
37. What's the last?
30,
Wow, yeah.
that was the last quote, we don't know. So I was gonna say 40, not to exceed $40,000 for replacement of the rooftop unit at the over the cafeteria at Wilton High School, in Bronson Middle School.
Sorry.
And nobody's done this time.
Does anything else need to add?
So let it go this
Any
time.
further questions from the board? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it.
That's it. Crystal, you're next.
Spend money.
Okay, my enrollment is there, it's fluctuated. The first 14 days of school, we've had 8 kids either in or out, so it's been a little busy in the office. As far as curriculum and staff development, Mel's continuing to work with teachers on, or preparing them for using Power Teacher Pro for report cards, so that'll be a change that we experienced throughout this school year. And then Amy Cobb and I have been working together, looking at potential computer science programs. This is the 2021 school year, that will be a requirement in grade 12. So we met with Lori Langlois on the phone the other day, and then she and Bill Church are collaborating with elementary schools in North Country. And so they'll be doing 3 visits to our school, and sort of inventorying where we're at, what we have, and then helping guide us as we move forward to an actual curriculum in computer science. So that's kind of exciting. She actually gave us a lot of compliments as to how far we already are along down that road, so I don't think it's going to be a huge transition for staff, which will be nice.
But it's K-12, right?
It is K-12.
Does it
Yeah.
include programming at the secondary level?
That I'm not sure about. I don't know if
Do we have to we don't have, it's not a requirement to offer that with this new, I'm just asking.
it's very new, so I'm not sure that it's
Okay.
been articulated yet. Yeah,
Oh,
like really brand new.
Sure,
Yeah.
yes, okay, but that's just something I wonder, I
So we'll have this-
anticipate it's coming, so.
This school year and next school year sort of draft that work and then the following year. So it's very much at the beginning end of it, but it's definitely something that we'll be spending a significant amount of time on preparing so that we are ready for the start of the 2021 school year, because it will have to be implemented in the classroom. So we'll have to figure out who, how, what, and there are some curriculums available that are free, so we'll definitely be exploring those. Yeah. And we have the technology to support that, so I don't think it'll be a huge transition. Currently, all of our positions are full. Eric's going to start. Eric he kind of spearheads a winter program, and he created a winter program committee to sort of inventory what we have and sort of make some changes. So I'll let Eric speak to that.
Yeah, so after the 2018 winter program, the office wanted to look at the current programs we offer, the quality of those programs, and look at the ski program. We did put out, there were some parents that gave us some feedback. They were looking for some changes with the ski program and maybe some of the course offerings. So we did put out a survey to families. We did receive about 100 response, which is good, but when you look at the data we received, it wasn't super helpful. There were some positive and some negative comments, but not a big trend that we had big decisions to make. But regardless of that, we did see that there might be a reason to look at making some changes. So we put together a committee of parents and staff members who've been involved in the ski program. And we had about 15 that participated, a lot during email. We had one meeting. We had 6 people people show up for the meeting. And we weighed all the pros and cons of making some changes, the big thing being the ski program. One of the things that we were looking at possibly making a change for is the day of the week. Right now we go on Mondays, and that gives us a lot of hiccups during the winter program months, because we have a Martin Luther Day off, and then that goes into winter vacation for us, and then mass vacation after that. So what should be a 6-week program ends up going for 10 weeks or so. So if we did any other day of the week, we could do 6 straight weeks. And then the other thing is whether it would make sense to go from Cannon to Bretton Woods. One of the reasons for that is the ski programs offering, having certain days that they can accept a new school. And then really I was looking at what the offerings are if we did go to Bretton Woods, because there's snowmaking on the trails for cross-country skiing and snowshoeing, which are programs we've had in the past but haven't been able to run because there hasn't been enough snow locally. And then we also would have access to the AMC program, transporting students that way. So the committee met and we weighed a lot of pros and cons, and there were some to both. But the committee did come to a decision that everyone felt confident that this time it would make more sense to move to Bretton Woods. One of the reasons, because changing to Tuesdays worked for both Evergreen, which is another site that hosts a lot of our winter programs, and Bretton Woods could take us on Tuesdays. So if we made that switch, we did 6 consecutive weeks, and it worked for our 2 main sites for winter programs. And the other being the additional program activities that students would be able to participate in, with the theme or the purpose behind the winter program being to get kids outside and doing things. So we have a lot of programs that we offer in the building, and trying to find more that kids are getting out into the community and find something to participate in. So there are definitely some cons to making the switch. The big one being finding enough quality ski instructors to volunteer at Bretton Woods. The Camden program did offer ski instructors, and we would have to, find our own. We do believe that if we make this decision now and we start kind of recruiting and looking for volunteers and kind of reaching out to the community, that we'll be able to fill those spots. Another con is the facilities. Cannon has a much more convenient facility for us to bring a school and keep ourselves organized and managed. So if we do go to Bretton Woods, we're going to have to look at some ways we can do a better job of organizing and managing ourselves there. Maybe we'll rope off a section just for Lakeway, and or maybe there's an alternative space on the mountain that we could use for ourselves. So we did think that was the best decision at this time. There are some other winter programs that we're looking to offer. So we'll be able to offer the snowshoeing and the Nordic skiing again. We might be able to even do tubing out there. And then we're trying to set up a program at the AMC to do their kind of winter, it's like kind of a winter hike and winter survival class. And I think that's actually free. So it would be a nice free program for students. We've talked to the Littleton Library about setting up a program with them that would also work on Tuesdays. We have a program that we're working on with White Mountain Science that we'd be able to bring the students there. We also, the Presidential Range CrossFit was going to do a youth CrossFit program for students, and I think that was it. What was that?
I think it's enough.
Yeah, we had a local community member who was looking to do like a karate, taekwondo kind of class that he was willing to do. So I think that we have we're going to try to have more activities where we're getting kids out into the community, and it's for our wellness, so hopefully we'll have less students that are staying back and more that are going out and enjoying the winter months.
So we will definitely communicate that out to families, but we wanted to let you know because I'm sure there'll be questions. But I think the committee did a really nice job. It was a really good representation of grade levels. and ski supporters, and Eric even kept the meeting open virtually, so to speak, and said, if you couldn't make the meeting, please provide feedback, and everybody that provided that feedback was in agreement that it just makes much more sense and we get more kids involved, and so we'll communicate that out because I know that's a change. Most parents for years have been planning on Mondays, but Tuesdays and 6 straight Tuesdays is going to be so much more convenient for us to have it really done in the 6 weeks is really the biggest benefit, I think. And I said, I played basketball, so it doesn't matter which ski mountain being spent on ski, I don't know how to skate. But the skiers came to that decision as well, so.
When looking at the comparing Cannon to Bretton Woods, I know that when they presented Bretton Woods to us years ago, that there was a savings with bus transportation. There was, I don't know if there was much difference in the actual cost of skiing there, but has that been looked at as well as their very big
Cannon
difference in cost?
graciously gave us a deal the first year, and then we had to fight very, very hard to get that deal again the second year. And although they gave us a document in writing saying that we would keep that same rate for skiers, I'm not 100% confident that that would be the case. So Bretton Woods was a better deal for parents.
Great.
So we aren't going to be increasing costs for families in that respect at all.
And bus cost is not a huge
I
cost.
think it should be a horse apiece either way.
What? I'm sorry.
I think it should be, a similar cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only difference would be if we're busing more students to the other programs.
Well, that's not a bad problem for us.
No, so.
And I know that Mount Eustis is going to be promoting their ski motor program for the season, so if renting the equipment is a hardship, that will overcome that, so it will hopefully get more kids out.
We're really fortunate to have both those mountains work with us. So thank you, Cannon and Bretton Woods. It's a huge asset for our school,
Well, we've had a lot of interest in cross-country skiing too, but we didn't even, I don't even think we offered it last year because they got to go 1 or 2 times all season. And it was just so disappointing for them because that was their program of choice and then they never really got to do it, so.
Did you do the snowmaking out on the Bretton Woods cross-country
Yeah.
trails out of Mount Washington?
Yeah, and on the snowshoeing.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
Snowmaking?
I've been to snow out there myself. I've never seen the snowmakers actually blowing out in the woods, So,
That's what I was
yeah,
thinking.
I do cross-country ski out there, so I was just wondering if I've never seen the machines.
That's good work. So we'll probably collaborate and get that information out to families so that they can prepare.
Yeah, because some people even take vacation days on,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so I think whatever you can do, and you probably have some skiers on staff who
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
can do the,
Yeah. We have a lot of
if they're
skiers.
willing, right, so hopefully it
We
won't be
need-
too hard.
We need 12 ski instructors and 12 chaperones pretty much. Chaperones are easy to find, it's the quality ski instructors. Even on our staff, we have a few that will fulfill that role, so we are gonna have to reach out to.
Yeah. Will they do the instruction course like they used to?
Yeah, they would
for
do,
the-
there's a half-day instruction
Yeah,
course,
yeah, that
and
works pretty
then
well.
they get passes.
So we had a great start to the school year, as I was talking about before. We had already had our back to school night, and this year we had, we've always had a few tables of people there, but this year we had more. FOL had a table, they actually made popcorn, that was very popular. NAMI is a homeschool connection support group. They were there and handed out quite a few business cards, so that's really good for support for our families. Boy Scouts had a table, Girls on the Run in Union Bank, so we were able to get all that information out to families at once, which was nice, and not necessarily having to send a flyer home about each one, so it's a little cost savings for us there. Picture Day was a success again. We went with Geskus, and Jen and I collaborated, so the district had one vendor for all students for the pictures, so that was a little bit easier. First Popcorn Friday was a huge success. That is always very exciting for the students. So thank you to FOL for continuing that program. Walking Wednesday resumed. We had 41 walkers on the first day, which is pretty high for the first round. So that was really nice to see. Thank you to all the volunteers with that piece as well. If you haven't been approached, you probably will soon. All Lakeway Lovers are out with their fundraiser forms, so you're welcome for that.
Yes.
That it is quite an event, and and Sam Nori is sort of spearheading that, so thank you to her. Her email address was on the front of the folder this year. So she's fielding all of those, which is awesome for me. And then the sixth graders are preparing for their overnight hike, which is super exciting.
Crystal, how did the full evacuation go last week?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Unbelievably well. We did communicate that out. It was my first time with the new system of email, text message, and I think everybody got the word that we were going to be evacuating. Carla Peacock had called the businesses along the route to let them know that we would be doing a mass exodus, so don't be nervous, it's just a drill type of thing. But we were really strategic. Our safety committee meeting was the day or two before it. So we were able, actually the day before, so we were able to plan, which I know in a real event we wouldn't be able to plan quite that much, but to have people at each crossroad with a stop sign. We had lined up how the kids were going to line up in the parking lot. We worked with Jim Annan to make sure he was prepared. And we were 18 minutes from the start of the drill to all of us being at and accounted for at the church. So I feel like it was a longer walk for some of those little legs than I think we had anticipated, but they made it.
The walk back was a little longer, especially the kindergartners.
They were tired. A few kids being carried. Nurse Penny did transport a few students, but I think it was seamless for that many people moving about Littleton at once and crossing that road. So we did have to stop traffic for some time, but we didn't run into any issues with that. So it was nice. It was really just to get all the kids walking from Lakeway to the church, knowing where it was. You know, in a true event, it definitely won't look like that, but at least the kids now know crossing the street and the route to get there is pretty simple. So, and all the store owners were super helpful, and Simon's is even gonna help us barricade off one half of their parking lot to make it easier for their customers to get in and out and decrease how many people we need to stop. So actually, it was great.
Thank you.
It's a village. So, let's see, that's another thing. Alpha, director report. David Nipper.
Yep.
She said it right, David.
That's it. Appreciate that. So it's been a good start to the year for the athletic department. Our participation numbers are about 130 to 135 total for Daisy Bronson and Littleton High School, all of the teams, which includes 5 students that are on the bass fishing team, the new bass fishing team, so that's pretty exciting. Those numbers are pretty similar to last year. If memory serves me right, the girls field hockey and the girls soccer for the middle school teams reached out to some 6th graders to sustain their numbers a little bit better, which they did last year as well. Jennifer and I are working to get the athletic department handbook moving along, up and running, and that will help formalize a lot of the policies and procedures in the athletic department. We do already have a 9-page document that has been used for a while now for the students and the parents, the co-curricular expectations, the co-curricular contract. So my focus to begin has been the coaches side of things, and so putting together more of the coaches part of the handbook so that they have a firm grasp of the policies and procedures when new coaches are hired on. And so far, we've got an introduction done, and we've got some thunder and lightning policies in place, and then there's a lot of scaffolding for nearly 40 different aspects that need to be put into writing everything. So it's going to be a work in progress as it goes along. Another part of that we'll be working on is kind of the policies and procedures for training coaches. So we've had a number of concussions that have happened this year. The kids' health and safety has overall been okay this season, but there has been some concussions. So I did want to just touch on the training that's required, just so the board members are aware of that. And for high school level coaches, that's anybody that coaches the 9 through 12 kids, they're required to pass 5 certifications. And so the first one is CPR and first aid. They have to complete a fundamentals of coaching course, which there's a number of different ones that they can take that the NHIAA will approve of. The typical and most easiest one is through the NFHS, which is online, and it's a $40 course, and they can take that to pass off that requirement. And then the next two are, again, through the NFHS, which these two are free, and that's concussion and heat illness. So they take those online. They're about 20 to 30 minutes, and those are free courses that the coaches can take.
You said concussion and what?
Heat illness. Heat illness, yes. Yeah. And then the last one that the NHIAA requires them to take is a rules review. So they do a specific rules review for their specific sport. And so that's required for the high school coaches. Yeah, some of those, the concussion is every year. And the CPR is every other year. Some are permanent, like the fundamentals of coaching. Once a coach gets that once, it's good for the rest of their coaching career. As is the heat illness. Once they take the heat illness once, it's good for the rest of their career. However, there is no written requirements as far as what the middle school coaches are required to do. We have required them to be CPR certified, but of the other ones, there's not requirements. So that's something Jennifer and I are going to be looking at with the handbook. The Adidas contract, I wanted to just touch briefly on that. The first year that we had it was last school year, and with the Adidas contract, there's free money that's set aside right at the beginning of each year that we're able to utilize, and when we use that free money to order uniforms, then we pay full price. But I don't know if I'm describing it right. We order things as full price, but then we don't have to pay anything for it. It just comes out of that money that they've already set aside for us. And so last year we ordered middle school basketball uniforms for both boys and the girls. And boys varsity soccer got new uniforms, and that's the JV as well, varsity and JV. And then the varsity and JV girls basketball team also got new uniforms. And when we use up all that free money that they put into the account for us, everything else that we order is at a 35% discount. And so some of those uniforms last year were at that 35% discount once all that extra money was used up. This year, there's a $2,000 that's there. We haven't used any of it yet. The first thing we're going to be looking to do is boys varsity basketball, and then in the spring, or before the spring, we'll be ordering new varsity baseball uniforms. Varsity basketball for boys and varsity baseball are the two oldest uniforms still in use currently, and so those are next up to get purchased. In addition to what we've been ordering for the teams, a lot of the individual teams will decide to order like team sweatshirts or team jackets, and so they order that through us, but they pay for those individually, and so they get, because they order through us, they get a 35% discount. So that's been used quite extensively. I know both the varsity soccer teams have done that for this year, and those can be embroidered, or they put their name on the back and things like that. So they look real nice. And that, in addition to that, I haven't received any complaints from coaches or players as far as the quality of the uniforms. I believe the uniforms are of a good quality, and we'll be able to work for the teams as going forward as needed. Looking ahead, we've got a big week. We've got this Thursday, the bass fishing team will compete in the qualifying tournament down at Lake Winnipesaukee. And there'll be about 35 to 40 schools competing in that from across the state. It's all the divisions, so big schools, little schools. The top 12 to 13 teams will qualify to compete the following 10 days later on Saturday. They'll compete at Lake Sunapee for the state championship. And so if our kids pull out some whoppers, then they'll have a good chance.
How many will say best fish for that program?
So there's been about 5 high school kids that have been attending practices, and a few middle school kids. The team itself that competes is only 4 students, and those 4 students, amongst that group, the heaviest 8 fishes, they'll submit for weigh-in, and those will be what count.
So where did you practice?
Lots of different places. Jen's been on practice.
They just go around.
How many legs?
And I'm gonna show my ignorance. Is this from shore or in a boat?
In a boat.
In a boat.
Now, it is legal. They can fish from the shore, but the boat fishing will get you better.
Right, that makes sense. I just wasn't sure if we were putting kids out on a boat, you know, so they're really, that's great.
So, yep, so that's coming up on Thursday, and then Jen mentioned homecoming on Saturday. We've got a full slate of games for Saturday, and that'll be good. And then looking even a little bit further ahead, we're starting to kind of plan out a brief ceremony to unveil the baseball championship banner, and we're planning that for the Thanksgiving alumni basketball games, because the idea is that those seniors that were on the baseball team will be able to be back in town and attend. So, yeah. Oh, and last but not least, I did want to let the board take a look at this. Jen and I went down to the NHIAA annual meeting today, and that was handed to us as the Award of Excellence for Sportsmanship, because we didn't have any disqualifications last year. None of our students were kicked out by a referee from a game. And so, and it seems, we've received that before. Many other schools, there's about 30 schools that received that from this last year, and all the participating schools, so it's a good thing.
David, on the fundamentals of coaching, you said there's a $40 fee.
Yeah.
Do we, in the past, have the coaches paid for that out of pocket? Have they been reimbursed for it? Does the school pay for it? What's been the policy in the past for that course?
I'm not
Coach
aware
paid.
of who's
They
paid.
paid.
Coach paid it? Okay.
Yeah, right, they pay their own. I've never seen it. Well, that is exciting, a lot going on.
Thank you, David.
Welcome.
Instructional coach report, the only one was.
That's fun.
So you can see that my report's broken up into 5 main areas: curriculum, instruction, assessment, reporting, and professional development. And each of these areas has a pre-K to 12 goal in an effort to keep the vertical vision and alignment at the forefront. And you'll also notice that the goals encompass and combine the district's big 3 goals of competency-based education, UDL, universal design for learning, and social emotional learning. Update from the schools on curriculum. Lakeway teachers are working to finalize their competencies and learning indicators at each grade level. And up at the high school, they're working to define what their learning indicators look like for each specific course. And also up at the high school, they're updating their course syllabi and their course curriculum documents, which is something that we're in the process of doing for NEAS. Instruction, pre-K through 12 students and teachers right now are building their classroom communities and relationships to create comfortable environments for students who are comfortable to learn. Assessment, teachers are currently administering various assessments to gather data on their students, which then will inform instructions, help them create groupings, and then modify a scope and sequence to fit the needs of their classes. Some examples of the assessments that are being given are the NEWA assessment, reading benchmarks at the elementary level, ESGI, which is an early childhood dyslexia screening test. The PSAT is coming up right around the corner on October 10th. And then also various teacher-made pre-assessments. For reporting, it's been touched on a little bit, but pre-K through 12, actually K through 12, will be using Power Teacher Pro at all grade levels this year. This is new for Lakeway. They'll be using it for their report cards for all 3 terms this year and using it as their grade book for terms 2 and 3. And training for the elementary school teachers will happen in this first trimester so that they're ready for trimester 2. And up at the high school, they started using Power Teacher Pro last year. This year they're going to be using it to assess and report out on their competencies, which is different from last year where they were only using it to report out in a traditional method. And they had, as Jen had referred to earlier, they had trainings this summer so that they could prepare for that. And that kind of also leads into professional development. Up at the high school, teachers will be meeting bi-weekly in cross-content area groups during their planning periods. And that's where they'll get support in assessment and grading practices. I'm sure a lot of questions will come up at first meetings tomorrow with our new grading system. Rubric development, analyzing student data, and just so we can promote continued student growth. And at the elementary school level, the teachers meet in grade level teams on a weekly basis to discuss students' academic and behavioral progress.
When do they meet? When do
They meet during their plan period.
Oh, okay.
So I had a note on there too, since this is a new report, if there's anything that you would like me to include in this monthly report for
Do you see any, and I guess this would be in collaboration with the administrative teams, but any curriculum purchases on the horizon? Or, I know, are we good with what we have, or what's your, every so often, so we're good. Across the board, like, K-12, it's working, the data shows it's working.
Right now, our plan is working. A lot of teachers are using open sources for their curriculum, just a lot of free resources online. This year we established some different courses, so the resources they kind of assess what tools they already have and supplement it using their current budgets.
And how about like with math of that, that's our real clear scope and sequence, so I guess.
Well, that's what we're working on
Our
with
scores aren't great.
with our competencies and our learning indicators is really outlining what we want the students to be able to know and be able to do. And then I think from there we would take a look at the resources that we have in order to teach those competencies and learning indicators to see if they are the most effective.
So in the past where you may have depended upon one textbook, they're recognizing the fact that that textbook doesn't have everything it needs to pull in the resources necessary to teach the competencies and the concepts as opposed to just getting to the end of the book or as far as you can get. So it's more looking at what they need to know, looking at what they know, and pulling from the resources they have to ensure that they're getting to the competencies that. So it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
The clarity of the learning is critical, what and when, because you cannot even close to teaching what's in the textbook. Those textbooks, manufactured textbooks to sell to their customers.
Well, and a lot
So
of
they
things
serve-
are online now.
They serve many masters, so I think that's important for us to remember, and yeah, you're right, there's many resources out there. But the old days of just using the textbook, cover to cover, and everything you ever need to know is there. It's impossible.
Just gonna, I think our current programs that we have in our buildings, I think teachers are comfortable with those as they help scope and sequence the learning, but then they add a lot, to those lessons. So I do think that what we have now, everyone's pretty comfortable with.
A lot of supplemental resources that are going in.
And it's all written down, who's doing what in each, so there is, like for science, like these are the things in kindergarten, who's doing this, it's all clear.
We have outlined who is teaching what in terms of topics and units, but that's when I say kind of mapping out the scope and sequence, that's the work that we're presently doing to get that down in more detail.
No, I think it's important, that's what so that's something I'm interested in, at least to answer your question, that we're doing that for our core subjects, K to 12 or pre-K to 12, whatever you're covering, so.
And what's neat is you can see the vertical progression from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. So the work that's being done at the high school is tied to what's being done at the elementary school and vice versa.
So, we're pretty all set? 2 hours roughly? Personnel, updated job descriptions.
Well, we had some consent tonight, but having taken a look at them and chatting with you and Kim, they're not formatted the way they should be formatted, I think.
Right.
So I think what we'd like to do tonight is to put these on hold till we get them the way they should be. That's what we do.
There's been a lot of work done in the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
but we just want to make sure it's the complete process. It's complete progress.
It's just, the verbiage is good. I think we've done a lot of work there and whatnot. We just don't have it formatted the way it should be.
Melanie, the only question I had is I'm looking for classroom teacher. Is that specific to Lakeway, or do you consider teachers at the high school to be classroom teachers? So that's the only thing, I wasn't sure if there was one more coming that was that distinguished between the elementary school teacher and high school. So classroom teacher encompasses all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I have a question, right, I would check on classroom teacher bullet 4. Just page 2 bullet 4, okay, just read that, just it's a little fix. What was the process that happened before you guys started, or before the state of personnel, or what happened prior to that, just for my own?
We're reviewing the job descriptions we have for,
I didn't know how it came to be. Did the administrators
Yes.
collaborate?
Crystal and
we
Jen.
had input with both administrators.
Yeah,
and all the
okay.
Full
administrators.
collaboration.
Yeah. Oh, good question,
I
yeah.
just wanted to understand that.
We know.
It was,
And there are a couple of other things too that have been changed to that, and everything to clarify.
Yeah, so we're almost ready.
Well, it takes a while.
yeah, so it's a big undertaking.
What do we have, 4 or 5?
I was looking at this.
Let's say you're talking about page 2.
Okay, so classroom teacher, page 2. And if you go to bullet 4, well, no, I guess, hang on a second, no, I miscounted, or didn't even, I think I looked at this on my laptop, I might have, right. And projects 2, so bullet 5, I miscounted, so guide learning process toward the achievement of curriculum goals and in harmony with the goals, establish clear objectives for all lessons, units, and projects. 2, communication of these objectives to students. So just that, I'm not quite sure what you're driving for sure in there, but that is going to be real.
Right.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so my understanding is that these are going to go back to the personnel committee for.
Yeah, we'll put it together, yeah.
2, or the former Channel 2 now, Granite State, had the opportunity to see the kind of people that are leading our buildings and leading our programs, and as well as a new program, and feel good about the work that's being done here. We have a lot of work is happening in the areas we've identified as the big three. And I just sat here and just listening as they were speaking and presenting, and it makes me very, very proud to have them as colleagues. I appreciate the work that they are doing. A couple other things. I'll be pretty short. We've had quite a bit tonight already. The school town meeting last week, I think went pretty well. That was one of our quarterly meetings, and Tom's report tonight again was shared some of the information that was shared again the other day. The fact that tax rate appeared to be going down some, and again based on factors that are out of our control at this point. That being the big one being valuation, but assuming the valuation stays constant and our revenues are as good or better than what we've projected, then we'll see a good little decrease in the tax rate for the second year in a row. I know the facilities committee is going to be meeting soon. I do think that there's a couple of items that's come to that committee over and over and over, and I think we've talked about them, but I do think walking around the schools, particularly up here, a couple of things that we talked about for a while that I hope that we can move forward on in the very near future. That is retaining walls. The status are not in good shape, so I am initiating some work with our architect on looking at those and seeing what it would take to fix them, not just for aesthetics but for safety, and to see exactly the shape that they're in. We know aesthetically they're not in good shape. They don't look good. The caps on them are gone, at least in places. And then the other item that we've been talking about for a while is the stains that are on the front of the building, where everybody drives by on Oak Hill Street. So I hope in the near future we can address at least those two items. And again, these are items that certainly the facility committee has talked about, and certainly I will hope that we can get some progress on that in the future. Mental health team, accolades for the work done there for the upcoming presentation, community presentation. I think it was really great teamwork, good work done by a lot of people there. I'm looking forward to that. Jennifer mentioned the songs. Thanks to them, my 13-year-old grandson knows who Neil Diamond and John Denver are. So I think that in itself, I mean, for him to be singing "Sweet Caroline" is pretty nice. Not to mention the John Denver songs that he's been listening to. Dale mentioned a little bit about the technology security, and the harmless legislation, well-meaning legislation. We'll see where it goes when it comes to pass, but this is one that that's throwing up a lot of red flags, and looks like, well, sure, we want to protect people's security, of course we do, and we want to make sure that when people access our systems that their data isn't stolen, of course we do, and that's very important, and we want to protect the safety, the security, and privacy of our students, faculty, staff, parents, and everybody else. But I think that the scope of what appears to be required in this is an unfunded mandate. It'll cost thousands of dollars, and frankly, the level of which is contemplated in this legislation, based on what I've been told at the meetings that I go to, is probably a level that's not attained by major industries, including even some banks. So that's what I've been told. Whether that's hyperbole, I don't know. And again, I'm not here to throw water on anybody's desire to improve security and protect privacy, but I do think that this is one of those that is going to require significant resources. In fact, it is carried out as it seems like it might be. So, those are the high points I want to hit on tonight, and again, thank everybody for presentations tonight.
So I will entertain a motion to go into non-public session.
Yeah, I gotta get that.
Thank you, everyone. That's good.
Oh, good, thank you. I'll make a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3 of the RSA 91A:3 of the right to know law for, number 2, the hiring of any person as a public employee, number 3, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. Any others? Taking with us the superintendent,
Tom,
business
Patty,
manager,
Crystal, and
Everybody's
Crystal, you
holding
said
their breath.
Crystal and Dale?
Jennifer.
Crystal, Dale, and Jennifer.
Not Dale.
Oh,
Dale's
Crystal
all-
and Jennifer.